Most of us tend to waste money on things we don't really need, and the governments are in no way safe from this disposition. Like when they built a capital city for millions to live in, and there's literally no one living there. And when the US wasted around $17 billion on a mega project that never even became helpful. And these weren't one-time occurrences. That's why we're bringing you the most futile mega projects from all around the world. Make sure to hit the subscribe button before we carry on with the video. Now let's get started. Myanmar. First off, let's talk about this capital, which was built entirely from scratch. Its construction was kept like a top secret in 2002 when it started. It wasn't until July of 2005 that they revealed this secret to the public, and even then, it took around 4 months for the name to be revealed. And what was the name? It was called Naypyidaw, which literally meant the king's residence. Why did they do it? The reasons are just assumptions. Some say that the military leadership was worried about a sea attack on the former capital, Yangon, while others think this decision was influenced by astronomy. But there's also the fact that the former capital was somewhat flawed. Relocating the capital to a more central location made sense. And honestly, Myanmar wasn't the first country to do this. Anyhow, Myanmar did end up investing $4 billion in Naypyidaw, and they did everything it could to attract visitors. There was a 20-lane highway, over 100 luxury hotels, golf courses, museums, and a 99-meter-tall replica of a landmark initially constructed in Yangon. But they missed out on a few major elements. There was a massive lack of quality health facilities and educational institutes, and little to no economic opportunities. So there's no surprise that when you visit the capital, you'll come across less than 1 million residents, most of whom have lived in suburbs before the capital was built. This ghost town could be one step in the country's future, especially if the population increases. But for now, it's useless. USA, Hawaii. Next up, we have what is known as the Interstate H3. This Aloha State Highway spans 26 kilometers and was constructed on such a beautiful landscape that people were concerned that its beauty would cause traffic hazards as drivers would stop to take in the breathtaking scenery. But it was built with its fair share of controversies. The first proposal for this project was presented in 1960, keeping defense in mind. The initial purpose was to connect the Pearl Harbor Naval Base on the south side to the Marine Corps Air Station on the east coast, but there was immediate backlash. The environmental groups said it was too dangerous, and the native Hawaiians were concerned about the massive urbanization it would bring. Almost 37 years later, in 1989, the construction began after the project received an exemption from environmental laws. Interstate H3 might be a wonder for the engineering world because of its advanced technologies and quite the rugged landscape on which it was built. It includes high-tech tunnels and viaducts to protect the environment below. But it did end up costing $1.3 billion to build, and statistically, that's the most expensive road per kilometer in the world. Why is it useless? Well, many say it's literally a road to nowhere, and also because the defense considerations of the 1960s are no longer relevant. Not to mention, the highway doesn't even have a direct route to downtown Honolulu. Also, some native Hawaiians still don't use it due to its alleged curse resulting from the destruction of culturally significant sites during its construction. So it's definitely living up to the cost of its development. Yucca Mountain. Next up is this nuclear waste repository megaproject, which consumed decades of planning and endless legal challenges, and over $17 billion has been invested in it so far. What exactly was the project? Well, you see, there wasn't much attention on the problem of nuclear waste causing environmental hazards, especially back in the 80s. At the time, the scientists thought the best solution was to find a huge underground place and dump hazardous waste there. In 1987, Yucca Mountain was chosen as the ideal location for burying the country's nuclear waste, where waste from all over the country would be buried in a tunnel complex 300 meters below the mountain. It was selected because it was close to the country's primary nuclear testing site. Also, it was rather isolated and, as rumors say, because it had little to no representation in Congress. However, the Nevadans strongly resisted it being the only nuclear waste repository in the nation, because there were apprehensions about the inconsistent hydrological and geological surveys. Moreover, it could infect Amargosa Valley, a nearby water source crucial to Native Americans who have lived on that water source for centuries. But after years of legal battles, the project was approved in 2002 and construction was started. However, Nevada's resistance grew stronger. They said that routine exposures during transportation would negatively impact tourism and dishonor the residents. This project became a highly politicized one by the time of Barack Obama's presidency. Obama's administration considered it impractical and stopped funding in 2010. Despite a federal court order to resume the project in 2013, progress has been minimal, and the Biden administration confirmed that it is no longer part of the country's plans. That's a lot of money and effort down the drain for an incomplete mega project. Spain. It's no doubt that Spain is one of Europe's most traveled destinations. That's why the country devised a plan to build Ciudad Real Central Airport, which would be a go-to airport for travelers and tourists, and become an alternative to the Madrid airport, which could contain up to 70 million individuals. The initial cost of $1.3 billion seemed justified at first because the airport's runway was among Europe's top 5 longest runways and had the potential to accommodate up to 2 million passengers annually, with plans for accumulation of up to 10 million in future. But after its opening in 2009, it failed to live up to its hype. Why? Well, it couldn't become central because the airport's location is 200 kilometers away from Madrid, and it was a hassle for the passengers. Also, the airport failed to attract major carriers and could only host a small-time airline within a year of its construction, and it managed to be indebted to $350 million by 2012. As a result, the airport was forced into receivership and was auctioned in 2013, which also failed, and it was finally sold to new owners in 2019. During the pandemic, the airport became a shelter for grounded planes. Around 65 aircraft were accumulated there by August 2020. Although this provided a much-needed business opportunity, the return of normal flight operations flunked that one too. So despite its billion-dollar cost, this airport is still relatively useless to passengers worldwide. Malaysia. Lastly, we have the most recently failed futuristic smart mega project, the Forest City in Malaysia. Located near the independent city-state of Singapore, Forest City was built on 4 artificial islands, and it featured quite an exquisite artificial forest ecosystem. The city's developers had thoughtfully connected it to Singapore through the Second Link Bridge, resulting in a mere 20-minute travel time between the two cities. The city boasted green rooftops, vertical gardens, and just about everything that could be included in a lush jungle experience. It was even designed in a way that the lower layer was for traffic and parking, and the upper layer featured parks, sports facilities, and transport hubs. Right now, the city's goal is to operate solely on renewable energy, with an estimated completion date of 2035 and a cost of $100 billion. However, this project suffered a major setback. As the funding was mainly provided by China and the majority of the property owners were Chinese, Malaysians raised concerns about potential cultural dominance and modern-day colonialism. This was because the high number of Chinese owners left Malaysians unable to purchase land. So the Malaysian government ended up banning foreigners from owning property in Forest City, which provoked many to leave and deterred new investors. Then, the COVID-19 pandemic further inhibited progress. By early 2020, less than 500 people lived in the place designed for 700,000. Consequently, the number of new homeowners declined hugely. And now, despite the billions of dollars invested, Forest City stands as an unproductive megaproject. Maybe it was too futuristic for a time when political challenges ruin everything. Thank you for watching. Which one of these do you think has potential for the future? Your opinion matters. So let us know what you think of these projects in the comments below. Don't forget to check out our channel for more exciting projects like this one. Until next time.